For those guys that are just joining, we are going to be starting up the Grand Challenge 5, and we're actually going to be reviewing a bunch of my games from day one. I was just talking about how important it is to actually pause your replays, review them, and analyze them. Even in wins and losses, you don't need to just look at losses. Looking at wins and finding out little ways to, make your lines even just a 1% better is always a really good thing. If you want to improve, if you're looking forward to Pokemon Champions, this is a great exercise that you guys can be doing in your own games. So we're just going to start this off right here. I already have a recording going over a bunch of my games. You guys can see my team right here is going to be Heatran, Landorus, Cresselia, Ogerpon, Fluttermane, and Galar Moltres. And this is the team that I just recently won a League Cup with. Very, very cool team. We built this team live on stream. There's a team building guide on my YouTube channel for this team as well, if you guys want to know all of the stats. So this is my very first game. And we're going up against Heatran. Now you can see my Heatran here, you can't really see its item, but it's going to be leftovers. It's going to be like a protect, triple attack leftover set. And a lot of my Pokemon, if you just want a brief explanation about our sets, they're mostly built for bulk. Bulk and speed, which is awkward. So like they're made to capitalize off of like an Icy Wind speed calc. So like Heatran's fast but bulky. Cresselia is fast but bulky. Moltres is fast but bulky. We don't actually have like heavy investment in our offensive stats. We're actually playing a little bit of a balanced team here, trying to outposition people. And going into this person's team, we see that they have like Heatran, they have the Pelipper, they have the Gastrodon. I actually really think Gastrodon is a very unique choice on Heatran because it basically means you never have to be afraid of Pelipper if like Gastrodon is like a potential to swap in. They can't like swap in Gastrodon and go for Weather Ball, because like the Gastrodon would then soak it up and then like it'd be hard to make that work. So it's kind of funny. The Gastrodon is kind of like shooting itself in the foot on this team in my opinion. But that being said, it's probably not coming to this matchup, and it's not coming to this matchup. And so one thing that I really want to, drive through for everyone here is like, how do you know what Pokemon to bring to every single matchup? It's kind of hard, right? Especially when you're playing like a team you might not be super experienced with. The thing that I like to do is go through a little exercise where I have to analyze what is the most important Pokemon on my opponent's team, and what Pokemon do they need to bring on their side to stop me from stopping them from bringing their most important thing, right? It's kind of hard to explain, but let's talk about it. Archaludon is going to be the main Pokemon on their team, right? So if they want to use Archaludon, they need to bring things like Pelipper, and they need to bring things, that could potentially let the Archaludon dictate play. So like Archaludon plus Ogerpon could be cool, but then you don't have rain, right? So we know that there has to be like Pelipper, Archaludon, and then probably, I'm thinking you probably should be bringing something like Farigiraf. And if you're going to be bringing those three, it's kind of hard to fit in the Ogerpon or the Lando or the Gastrodon there. So as long as we actually check the Archaludon and the Pelipper, we by proxy check a lot of what their team kind of works, right? A lot of like what their team needs to actually get the job done. On the flip side, Landorus is pretty good here, believe it or not, for me. Cresselia is going to be great for me here. Fluttermane's usable. I think Ogerpon Wellspring is going to be a very, very important Pokemon in this matchup specifically because it pins the Gastrodon and it can redirect a lot of things. Now, because this is a closed team sheet tournament, we don't know if they're like Sturdy Arch, Power Herb Arch or something kind of weird, but you can just kind of see where I'm going to be going with my team preview here. I'm kind of thinking this is my very first game in the tournament. We go immediately to the Wellspring. That's my immediate thought here. I think we know we have to bring Wellspring, but we don't really know where it has to come. Do we want to lead with it? We could lead with it, or we could save it in the back. And we actually want to really get a good understanding of like what our opponent's lead options have to be based off of what their first two Pokemon are. Max, how goes it? So you can see right here, I have Fluttermane, Landorus. I think it's a very, very solid choice here. What does their board actually do to stop Fluttermane Landorus? Is there any combination of Pokemon that they could have that stops that? That lets me get an Icy Wind turn 1 to guarantee the speed control, right? Let's talk about this. If I were to come out with Fluttermane and go for an Icy Wind, that's going to let me, make sure that every single thing is slower than me. There's no combination of like Scarf Mons or anything weird that could outspeed that Fluttermane. And in a situation where you're like, well, what if he has like Wide Guard Pelipper? He's going to block your Icy Wind. Well, if he has Wide Guard Pelipper, well, then he can't use any of the other Pokemon to like, cheese anything. That Pelipper can't hit me with a Weather Ball on my Landorus and Wide Guard, right? So if we were to go for like an Icy Wind U-turn and analyze and try and get additional information off them, that's going to be a very, very safe play. I also think like being able to potentially intimidate the Ogerpon or potentially threaten the Archaludon to force it to Terra could be very, very solid. So I think this is a really, really good play. Again, we know they have to bring an Arch. We know they have to bring a Pelipper somewhere. We're trying to see the order in which they're bringing these Pokemon, so we can understand what the third and fourth Pokemon are. But I do think we're in a very, very good spot for this first game. So going into this one just a little bit, going into the game here, I really, really like Landorus and Flutter Mane. And I think that's one of like the last few skills that I think I really bring to the table as like, you know, experienced players. Like, I really have a good grasp of like what we force our opponent to do with the team preview. So we can see Pelipper and Arch off the rip. Now, because we see Pelipper and Arch, what do we think is going to be in the back? Right? I think it's going to be for Farigiraf. And then if it is Farigiraf, it should be for Farigiraf and Gastrodon, and it would only be Gastrodon if it has like a Terra that isn't really bad here. Normally Gastrodons, you like to see them with like a Fire Terra because they have Storm Drain, but that doesn't really work with like a Landorus on the board here. So if they don't, like if they have Gastro, it'd have to be Flying Terra Gastro. And that's a read that we can make later on in the matchup. Just like talking about that, like a lot of situations, like they think that we know what their Terras are, right? When like we really have no idea. We can just assume in a lot of situations. So like a lot of people won't bring things because they think that we know that they know, and you know, people get trapped in their own head a lot. So in these situations, I think they have to bring Farigiraf, and I think probably just Landorus is really good because we have Heatran. Heatran's going to be forcing anyone that has like ground moves, water moves, and things like that to be over-respecting it. So those are the 4 that I expect in this matchup. So for the first turn of the game, I think it's super, super safe to just go for that Icy Wind. Like I said, Icy Wind plus U-turn is going to be really good. If the Pelipper wants to pop a Protect, I'm not afraid. If the Pelipper wants to go for a Wide Guard, it's still taking U-turn, losing its Sash. This is threatening the Pelipper enough, and if the Pelipper were to just put up a Tailwind here, unfortunately I missed an Icy Wind into the Archludon, but if they were to put up a Tailwind here, I still outspeed these things with Flutter Mane, right? And we're actually going to be able to see how like we outspeed these things. So we go for the Icy Wind there, we go for the what is it, the U-turn, we can pivot right out, and we're going to go into the Cresselia here, and it's a much better play to go into the Cresselia, I think, than the Ogerpon. Actually, I go into Ogerpon, right? We go into Ogerpon, we're saving the Cresselia in case we see the Farigiraf here, and we're not coming in with this Ogerpon to block Weather Ball, because, like, honestly, they couldn't go Weather Ball there. I just want to talk about that. They could not go Weather Ball there, because they'd have to swap their Arch out for, like, yeah, it's hard to explain, but like if Gastrodon wanted to have any impact on the board, we probably would have sought swap in that turn for something, and it didn't, so like we're fine. They go for a Flash Cannon into the Flutter Mane. Our Flutter Mane's bulky enough to not get KO'd by that, and like honestly, if we had like a, how would I word this? If our Flutter Mane got crit by that, that would have been bad, but it's not the end of the world. So going to the second turn, I would say we're slightly behind because we missed that Icy Wind, right? We're honestly slightly behind, but we broke the Pelipper Sash. We saw what type of Arch it is. A Flash Cannon would only realistically be built on a AV Arch. So I think we're in a fine spot here. We're going to protect and just try and see a little bit more about what they're doing. It's actually really good for us that they're not just going straight into like electro shots, right? So I think what I'm going to do here is I think I just try to, well, let's see what happens. I'm trying to remember what I do. I played this morning. I think, yeah, because we got the Icy Wind drop on the Pelipper, we know we outspeed. And I think we could just get the Pelipper off the board. You follow me to stop a second Flash Cannon, and then you just dump truck the Pelipper, and then once the Pelipper's gone, there's no more Wide Guard, and once the Wide Guard is gone, Landorus just wins the game. That's the idea, because I believe this is their only Pokemon other than their Landorus that is flying. So we get the crit there, but you don't really need a critical hit to pop a Pelipper. It has a pretty low Spadef, so pretty good turn, I would say, in that situation. They didn't really have that many Pokemon that could have swapped it on that. They go for a Flash Cannon here, and you know, we're off to the races. We've gotten the first KO, we've mitigated a lot of damage, and we're doing great. So in this situation, whatever this last Pokemon is going to tell us what their last Pokemon is, right? So this is going to tell us that their last Pokemon has to be Farigiraf. It has to, based off of like what they're playing. They're trying to capitalize off the fact that they got Tailwind, and honestly, looking upon this replay in the back, we should have been able to actually tell that was Landorus over something like Ogerpon or Gastro, just because they Tailwind on the first turn. They wouldn't have done that if they didn't have Landorus. It's a good tell, right? Picking up on what your opponents have in the back based off how they lead in their playstyle is like super, super important in my opinion. So I'm thinking like, how do we want to play around this? I think we just pivot around. We're going to pivot out here, go into our Landorus. This is going to be good for a couple reasons. We're waiting out their turns on their Tailwind, right? We're blocking potential Electro Shots. We're mitigating damage from things like Sludge Bomb. This is a super, super solid play, and we just don't need Landorus anymore. They confirmed that their last Pokemon basically has to be Farigiraf with how they're playing the matchup, or Ogerpon, which, like, we don't need Landorus anymore for this matchup, obviously. Howdy, checking in. We are here. We unfortunately get crit by a Sludge Bomb, but not the end of the world. They whiff a Flash Cannon. Long stream tonight? I don't think so. Probably not. Probably not a long stream, but we're here. So we're waiting out the Tailwind here. Last turn on Tailwind, so all we gotta do is swap out the Fluttermane. Remember, Fluttermane, even though it's lost its booster, when it comes back in, it's still going to be faster than all these things, unless that is a Scarf Landorus. And if it is Scarf Landorus, sorry, not Landorus, yeah. If that is a Scarf Landorus on their side, it's now locked into Sludge Bomb, which means we just win with our Landorus into it. So I think we're in a really, really good spot here. So Fluttermane's going to pivot out. I think do we come in with Cress here? Cress is probably the right play, right? Yep, Cresselia is great at soaking damage here. Flash Cannon's not doing a ton to it. Sludge Bomb's not doing a ton. Tilted at 510, that happens. So they double into the Fluttermane, which is actually a really, really good play. It's solid because, like, our Protector's on cooldown. We go for a U-turn here into this Arch, and the reason why I wanted to do that is because we didn't know if it was Stamina. It could have been Sturdy. Remember, we missed that Icy Wind on turn 1, and I wanted to guarantee get a pivot. I didn't want to U-turn into a Lando, be locked into that, and then, like, the Tailwind expires, and I'm stuck using U-turn. I wanted the guaranteed slow pivot. I didn't care that I was giving it a proc, and I was pretty sure that was vested Arch based off the set. So yeah, we get a free pivot back into our Ogerpon here, and now that the Tailwind's expired, we have a really, really good board state here. We're hoping that that is not Scarf Sludge Bomb Lando, but I just don't think that it is. Judging by the amount of damage that it did to my Cresselia, I'm pretty sure that it's Life Orb, Sheer Force Lando, just judging by the amount of damage that we took. So that's just me, you know, using a little bit of my experience here, but I'm thinking like, I can... Just to make sure, I think I do Icy Wind and Spiky Shield just to play around that, right? Do I do that? No. Oh, actually, I make a different play. I go for a Spiky Shield Protect in case I'm trying to read them go Poison Terra. I like this read too. I think this is a solid play because my Ogerpon's actually not that strong. So the fact they swapped moves up in that situation, that tells me that they're not Scarfed, which means I don't need to Icy Wind on and be afraid of that thing anymore. They were trying to read me Terastallizing, I think, on my Ogerpon. But Psychic is good. Look at this damage. It threatens Dolores Spadef. That's great damage. And the common Landorus Terras are poison, especially on this team. It's poison or steel. Psychic would have been good damage into it. And honestly, if they went either into poison or steel, our Landorus checks them. That's why they're not Terastallizing, in my opinion. But now they're too low to actually live through anything that the Ogerpon wants to throw out at it. So we can just double into that same slot if we want. We can go for a Lunar Blessing. I think, do I have Lunar Blessing here? I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking. Yeah, Lunar Blessing just to tap off. Now we don't have to be afraid of Electroshock anymore either, so we just get the free Ivy Cudgel. They're just taking the damage. And again, I want to talk about why. Like, we played this so patiently. That Ogerpon was on the board for, I think, like 3 different turns in this game, which means they had so many other times to pivot in Gastrodon. They just don't have it. The last Pokemon has to be for Rigorath. It has to be for Rigorath. Judging by how they're playing. Ogerpon would have came in at different times. They would have played it a little bit differently. Lunar Blessing is absolutely fine. We don't really care what they do with this Arch. Getting a little bit of healing is always nice, especially on both of these Pokemon. And there's the Body Press. Great stuff. So that only does a little bit more damage than we actually take with... that we heal with Lunar Blessing. So there's the Rigorath. It's almost like we play the game, right? It's almost like we play the game, right? So I think in this situation, like, we don't really care if they get up Trick Room. We're just going to go for damage in the Rigorath. See what happens. If they set up a Trick Room, we go Spiky Shield, flip it back. This is an easy lockup at this point. And what we're trying to do here is win without revealing that our Landorus is banded. That's like the last main objective, because you can fight the same people multiple times. It's definitely possible. You don't want to reveal any more items or like move sets or anything if necessary. You want to save all of the info you can. So we go for, they whiff a Draco this turn, Lamau, but it's not really that important. Actually, I wanted that Draco to hit. That would have been really cool if the Draco hit, because then you would never be able to break my Fluttermane with a Flash Cannon anymore. So in this situation, we can just Lunar Blessing. I think Ivy Cudgel, if I were to go Terra, that would guarantee lock it up, but I'm just trying to see if I can get away with not doing it. Because I don't want to, like, say, I want to save all the info I can, but at this point, like, I think they know they're going to lose. And if they do Trick Room, like, we know that we just flip it back. There's a Citrus Berry, so I really like that. I want to talk about this. I could have just went Terra right there and won that game, but I automatically win this game either way. The fact that I slow played that and got to see their item, really, really important. I think it's really, really cool for, like, gathering information in a close sheet situation, because I'm not losing anything by doing this. They already know how my Pokemon are built because we've taken a lot of damage, and I'm not really afraid of like any of their Pokemon doing anything. Like, yes, that could have crit, but it's not really a big deal. You know how goes it? There's the Trick Room, again, Spiky Shield, flip it back, like, easy peasy, right? And if they want to go for, like, a weird play where, like, they read me flipping it back and flip it back and do all those other weird things, we have a Flutter Mane and a Landorus with the Cresselia, like, we are super fine. It would suck here to get imprisoned on top of this, but then again, that's just them revealing more info, and because they're at -2 on the Arch, they can't do anything if we just wanted to bring in Lando and win the game. So, we're playing this super standard, and we're just slow playing this one to win this first game. So, I mean, this is all you really got to do, but like Ogerpon's kind of nice. And because we saw Citrus there, we know that all the information we can actually gain. We're going to be in a pretty good spot. How's it going? It's going pretty good. We're just reviewing our GC Day 1 games. And I think a bunch of these other games we're going to take a look at are going to be a lot better for like breaking down and understanding what we need to be doing in these situations. But this first game, you know, we just had a good matchup and we just take this all the way to the bank. So hopefully everyone else is having a good GC as well. I only like to play a few games at the start. I might play a little bit more later, but I think it's important to, you know, play games with like a good headspace, like be really locked in. Like I know personally when I play these games, I put on like, I use earplugs, like I completely like lock in with what I'm doing, and I think it's really, really important. So we are able to Terrastallize, get that 1.2 boost on our Ogerpon. That's going to let us take out the Farigiraf, even if we low rolled. That thing's going to go down. We get the plus to our Spadef as well, which means we don't really care. I think they start charging an Electro Shot this turn. And again, because Electro Shot is a charge move, it's going to take 2 turns to go. There's no rain, which means we can just Spiky Shield. Oh, they go for another Draco. Next turn, they go for a Electro Shot. Getting back to this replay, we honestly have this game pretty locked up. There's nothing they can really do. We just bring in the Flutter. We just go for a Psychic. We know that Archaludon is going to be at -2. Sorry, it's a -4 special attack. It used 2 Dracos. Look how weak this Archaludon Flash Cannon is. It's weak, right? So he gets another Stamina proc. Really, it does not matter all that much. And look at this damage. Dude, Cresselia is so good. Cresselia is like so good. Alright, so Archaludon going to be able to go for one final Flash Cannon. Unfortunately for them, they do not get the critical hit, and that is pitiful damage. So we are able to take that win and go to an undefeated 1-0 record in the Grand Challenge. Pretty good. Pretty good stuff. So let's go to our next game. All right, so let's talk about this game, right? So we're in game 2 of the GC, right? Game 2 of the GC, and we're taking a look at our opponent's team. They have Psyspam Crown. Now, what's different about this one is it's obviously made more for Trick Room, right? They have the Ursa, they have the Indity. We don't know if that's Urshi Water or Urshi Dark. I do think if that is Urshi Dark, and I anticipate it being Urshi Water, I do lose. And it realistically, by all tells, should be Urshi Dark because they have a Gyarados on the team. That should be a big tell. And so with this one, I'm looking at it very similar to that first game. We're trying to find out ways we can optimize. I think that Moltres, one of the things Moltres is even for, is Crown matchups, right? Crown can't really do anything to Moltres. None of these things really do that much to Moltres, if I'm being completely honest. So Moltres on paper looks really good. I'm looking at Ogerpon here as well. Moltres Lando seems pretty good on paper. Flutter Mane, though, and Moltres guarantees that none of their Pokemon can actually threaten like a big KO. Right? If they want to use like Scarf Ursh or Scarf Gyarados or Booster Energy Crown, I don't have to deal with that if we go Flutter Mane here. I'm looking at my Cresselia. I'm making sure that I locked in the Ghost typing, which I did on my Terra. That means this Cresselia can 100% check a Luna if I need to. Yeah, someone gifted you a sub. Skywick and Chris gifted a lot of subs earlier. So these are going to be the 4 that I'm going with. I think that like Landorus could be good here, but I do think they're going to be expecting me to bring Landorus, so they're going to bring Gyarados to check the Landorus. I think that Gyarados, the whole point of it is probably to check Landorus. It's either going to be AV, it's going to be bulky. That's what I'm expecting, to be able to deal with like other people that are commonly using Landorus Incarnate. So that's what I think for this one. Let's get right into the start here. You can see they lead off with Urshifu and Amoonguss. Now, this is a huge tell that like that's either going to be Scarf Ursh, right? And they're going to be like U-turning to bring in something, or the Amoonguss is going to be Mental Herbed, right? And it sucks because you either, right in this turn, right? You either double taunt the Amoonguss and they go protect and KO your Flutter, or you keep the Ursh honest with the Moonblast and you taunt the Amoonguss and you pray on everything that they are not Mental Herb. But I like this lead. I feel comfortable in this lead. I feel in close sheet, this is the best that you have. I really like the ability to go like Grass Terra, Flutter Mane, and Moonblast. Because like on paper, they could just go like Rage Powder to protect from like a Moonblast, right? That's an honest look for them. So, you know, I go for the taunt on the Amoonguss, I go for the Moonblast on the Ursh. I'm respecting their ability to be Scarf Ursh. I'm respecting their ability to have some sort of Terror that they can flip on to make sure they don't lose their Ursh to my Flutter. And at the same time, I don't want to lose my Flutter to like a Surging Strikes or anything either. So I really feel comfortable with this play, but they are not Scarfed Ursh. They're going for the Detect, and you guys know where this is going. That is Mental Herb Amoonguss. So I could have just won this game by opening up double taunt on Amoonguss. And in situations where you're playing in a GC, and this happens to you on turn 1, and of course, I just want to say, of course, they spore the target that's not a grass type. Like, I got freaking Shadow Realm never luckied 1,000 times this turn. What are you going to do, right? I think in that situation, there's nothing that you can really do to deal with like that, you know? What do you do, right? You just try your best to come back, but at the same time, it's like, never lucky. I think it's just a never lucky turn. I don't think there was any way that we could have saw that coming, and I feel like what I did is I correctly stopped a lot of things from happening. I respected Scarf Ursh. I respected most forms of Ursh, honestly. I went with the Grass Terror there, so even if they were Sash or Steel Terra or Mystic Water or even Banned, Fluttermane lives that. I respected their ability to click Rage Powder. I covered like 9 options out of 10 and got sent to the Shadow Realm on the one thing that, like, this is what we like to call, like, make your opponent meet you at a specific level. If they were on like autopilot or using a team with like less tech, they would have just lost the game on turn 1. But we said, like, I'll let you have it, but you got to make the right plays, have the right mons and the right moves, everything for the right situation, and they did. It is what it is. And so, like I said, even though we could have made that read and double taunt the Amoonguss, against like 9 times out of 10 against other players, if I double taunt the Amoonguss and the Amoonguss protects that turn and I just lose my Flutter to like a close combat crit by them making a read, I would have lost the game there too. So I had similar leads when I was playing Salamence. I feel inclined to Tailwind or Air Slash the Amoonguss. I don't use Taunt enough. Taunt's great, right? Taunt's great. I could have double taunted it. And honestly, the fact that Amoonguss is in that first slot and Ursh is in second, I should have realized it was Mental Herb. I should have realized it so hard. I just really thought what they were going to do was Spore the Flutter. I thought what I was really going to see was Detect Ursh, Spore Flutter, and then that way Flutter doesn't pin Ursh, and then Ursh can do what it wants. They just have the Mental Herb. And so that's why I thought, like, even if you were Mental Herb, this blocks Spore. But, you know, basically that is going to be, that's game. You know what I mean? Like, I got turn 1 put to sleep. What do you really want me to do in this situation? I try to pivot in my Cress, and I go for an Icy Wind here, because I know now that that's probably Sash Ursh, right? I'm pretty sure that it's Sash Ursh, so the way I'm looking at this is if I pivot in my Cress, I can block a Spore, I can do whatever I want. This will break Sash, which will allow my Cress to be able to pin their Ursh with a Psychic, and remember, Cress has Safety Goggles, so it plays through the redirection. And so, like, I'm doing okay, but they do go for the close combat here, which is a good play. They get the KO just like I said, right? So it's like, we tried our best, but at the same time, not that much we can do. I think they actually went for a Spore here, and what they actually did in this situation was I think they went for close combat and Spore into my Flutter. Oh, they Sludge Bomb, sorry. They do Sludge Bomb, my bad. Doesn't do anything, though, because Cresselia is bulky. But now you can see, like, I have Moltres here, and I can go for the taunt on the Amoonguss, but I think in this situation, like, we're still asleep, so we need to wake up, right? We need to wake up. Time to wake up. So, unfortunately, Moltres is going to be 6 speed faster than our Cress, I believe. So, we do not get to Lunar Blessing and then Fiery Wrath. But at the same time, we're not really taking that much damage here. So, in this situation, I'm just going to speed it up a little bit. They're pivoting out the Ursh here. Pivoting out the Ursh in for the Ursaluna. I always think it's a good idea, too. If you're ever using, like, an Ursaluna, you probably shouldn't use the titles that, like, especially like if you're using like one with a different name, right? Using it of the distant past gives me that extra 1 second to know that's Ursaluna, because like Ursaluna is the only one on that team that could have that title. You're giving your opponent extra time to think whenever you use those specific titles. That's why whenever you see me use titles, it shows just like the rank hero or like the treasure hunter, stuff that everything can get. That's a little tidbit of information here. So in this situation now, Moltres is awake, but there is currently an Ursaluna on the board that's giving me a really, really hard time. I can go for Protects, I can go for Psychics. We know that they have those two plus Ursh, and I'm just praying that the last Pokemon here is not Crown. So they're going to see a swap here, and of course, it's Gyarados. So Gyarados and Crown, very similar. Gyarados is going to come in here. Yeah, I'm happier. I guess, like, actually, yeah, Gyarados is really bad still here, too. I didn't want to see Crown, but I also didn't want to see Gyarados. We go for the Protect here, and we're trying to see what the Ursaluna does. We're trying to make them waste an attack into the Moltres. I think that they should just shove down the Crest, but, you know, they're tunneling at this point. So I'm still really behind since my Flutter and Terra are down, but I'm getting something. Something's going here. We got like a slight way to play this game here. Fiery Wrath can flinch things. You know, Speed Control's back in our control. We're going to Icy Wind here to see what kind of Gyarados that is. Sometimes they like to be Clear Amulet. So right now, even though we're still not like ahead, this is really good to stop Gyarados from getting Dragon Dances to stagger on us too. So it's like being able to stick that Icy Wind is going to be able to stop that, even if they did Dragon Dance. So really, really good stuff here. There's the Thunder Wave. So because we see Thunder Wave here, that means it's like, okay, it's probably either Rocky Helmet or Citrus. Probably those two. Maybe a Cloak, but like it's going to be bulky, right? And they go for the Facade, and they get the one-shot on my Moltres, which like, I'm kind of surprised. That means it has to be like a full attack Luna. Like some Lunas get away with running like 188 in attack, and some Lunas, you know, just run full attack. And now I'm on my last two Pokemon. I really thought Moltres was going to live by like a sliver, and the fact that it didn't was like very bad, because now I'm stuck here with a Paralyzed Cress and an Ogerpon. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I know there's an Amoonguss swap in coming soon. They should just like swap out the Gyarados to be Intimidate cycling my Ogerpon. That's what they should be doing. But we'll see how this goes here. So I think we're so close, because if we get the Luna off the board, we break the Ursh, we break the Moongus. We actually have, there's no way Ursh and Gyarados and Amoonguss break this Cresselia, right? So we know that Amoonguss has to come in here. I think we have to ignore their Ursa this turn. I think that's what I do, right? There's the Amoonguss pivot. Yep. So Amoonguss pivots come in, get the Regenerator proc. We Spiky Shield here just to see what the Gyarados is rocking, because remember, they still haven't, like, Terra, they still haven't done anything. I'm trying to see what they got here. They go for a Taunt there. And I think we weave in a Psychic on the Luna slot. The idea was, like, I wanted to Psychic the Luna. Or, sorry, Psychic the Crest, because I really thought that was going to swap into Ursh that turn. But either way, I think we're in a decent spot here. We can Horn Leech. Remember, they can't go Rage Powder. And it'd be nice to get a Lunar Blessing to get the Para off me, but at the same time, like, it's fine. You know, I don't think there's anything I can really do about it. So Psychic does good damage to Amoonguss. Honestly, if we were to... Remember, it used its Mental Orb too, so it's not like they can be like Citrus or something. If I go Psychic and get a Spadef drop, I threaten to KO it with a second Psychic. And their Ursaluna is not that healthy either. So in this situation, like, I almost feel like I'm coming back. The Urshifu Sash is broken. The Gyarados is weak. The Ursa is weak. Crest can 1v1 the Amoonguss very easily. Even if they were to start Sludge Bombing my Ogerpon in that stab, I have Lunar Healing and can heal that if I have to. And we know that we outspeed all of their Pokemon with our Ogerpon because that Urshifu's not Scarfed. So they go for a Rage Powder here, which is honestly not the right play. And I'm able to just dump truck this Gyarados with the Horn Leech, get the KO here. Critical hit, we didn't need it, it's stabbed. So Gyarados goes down in this situation, right? And you have Ursa, right? You have Ursa and Ursh. And if you send in Ursh, you still have Terra, but like, I'm not afraid. If that would have got a Spadef drop, I would have won the game. Because I just would have went, hit Ursh, hit Amoonguss. But look at this. You send out the Ursa, right? They have to Terra here, right? You have to go Ghost Terra in this situation. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, I don't know if my Cresselia outspeeds this Ursa. I think it does. But I'm looking at, like, what do I need to do? I'm thinking, like, what I think they're going to do is go Protect, Sludge Bomb. But like, look what I do. They go Terra. What would you guys have done in this situation? Looking back on this now, I should have just Ivy Cudgeled the heck out of the Ursa and tried to crit it. 100%. And the reason why I should have done that is because it showed that it was full attack investment earlier. It's probably full HP, full attack. I don't know, like, why I let this happen to me, but, like, they go for the Facade, they almost KO my Crest, but they just completely ignored my Ogerpon, right? I go for the Psychic here, I wanted to get that KO here, and they side Pollen Puff that turn. And I was like, are you freaking kidding? They didn't even attack my Ogerpon. They ignored my Ogerpon, and remember, my Ogerpon only has 4 points in attack. So I think I needed to crit an Ivy Cudgel, but like, imagine a board state where I hit that and I won the game. I would win. I would have won the game if I hit that. Do I even go for the Ivy Cudgel? No, I think the only play there was a double Spiky Shield. Let them get the hit, and then you just win. But like, they don't even take the bait. Never lucky. And unfortunately, we are going to lose that one. But I had shots, you know. I had shots to win that one. And remember, we got blendered on the first turn by the Mental Herb. So it wasn't the cleanest game, but I feel like we actually had a lot of shots. And at that point, there's no reason to like go for the damage or try and do anything at that point. So you just take the L, go into the next game, try and get back on a win streak if possible. So going to the next game. That was a rough one, but you made them work. Yeah, I did. Considering I lost the game on the first turn, I tried my best. So this game, we have Bolt Balance, right? So Bolt Balance, guys, let's talk about this. What is the Pokemon that they need to feature in this game? What is the best Pokemon on their team against mine? What do you guys think it is? What do you guys think the best, most important Pokemon is? It's not Bolt. Bolt doesn't, you can't bring Bolt into my team. There's way too much stuff that says no Bolt. Rilla? Rilla's okay, but there's no terrain here. Like, Rilla is actually just U-turn fodder, and Rilla doesn't do anything against Moltres. It's Hearthflame. Yep, 100%. It's Hearthflame, right? So what we need to do is build a team that makes using Hearthflame really, really hard. We need to really, like, cramp the Hearthflame, and if we do that, that means if we can make it so Hearthflame doesn't actually have like a big impact in the game, that means they have to go Bolt, or they have to go Ursh, they have to go Flutter. They have to try and force a play with something that is not the optimal play. And in doing so, it's going to give them the opportunity to fumble the bag, if that makes sense. And if they try to just force the Hearthflame and we're hard countering it, that's going to let us win as well. So thank you for the follow. Let's get into this game. So you can see I really like in this situation. I don't remember if I lead Flutter here, but like Flutter is very good because you can just say, I'm faster than you with everything. I really think the Hearthflame is like their main mon they're trying to feature, and I really like Ogerpon and Lando in this matchup because what I like about this is even if they lead Ursh, they're forced into a U-turn situation if they're scarfed, right? And if they're not scarfed and they want to like close combat my Ogerpon or something like that, they're intimidated, so it's not going to do anything. So like what that basically says is they can't Surging Strikes my Lando on turn 1, and we can just pivot out the Ogerpon for our Talonflame and then U-turn out and then re-come in. And if they wanted to lead in Sin, that's a check on their Intimidate, which is exactly what's going to happen. I want to talk about it a little bit in more detail here. You got to bring the Flutter, and it has to be Heatran. Has to be Heatran. Cresselia is a slow loss in this matchup. You will actually get grinded out by Bolt and Hearthflame if they use him correctly. So you got to go with these 4. And like I said, so I'm going to lead Ogerpon and how would I word this? You said, I think the raid message needs some TLC, but above else, the fun of the GC has started and my sanity is still intact. Well, hopefully you have a good rest of your weekend. I mean, it's a long weekend still. You got to play a lot of games, right? But yeah, I really think that they have to go Hearthflame in this matchup. And like I said, if I lead Ogerpon and Landorus and we trade Intimidates, I just pivot out the Ogerpon for literally anything, U-turn, bring out my Ogerpon unintimidated, avoid the fake outs for turn 2, and then I have a really, really good pin. Got a local cast tomorrow, so the game's probably taking a backseat. That's fair. Yeah, I think I might go to a local this weekend as well. So they see they lead Urshifu and Hearthflame. So like this is exactly the board that I was talking about, right? This is exactly the board, right? That Urshifu can't really do anything, right? Has Moltres joined any matches in this tour? Moltres was in the last game that we just played. Yeah, Moltres was the feature mon. So in this situation, like, if you're scarfed, like, you're intimidated now. So, like, you're going to have to U-turn there. You're not just going to rip a Surging Strikes turn 1 into a Lando. And even if you are, you're not. And if, like, you're Mystic Water or something like that, this is like a heavy speed Lando, so it outspeeds Adamant Ursh, right? So it's like, I really feel confident here. Remember, the whole point of all of this is to put pressure on the Hearthflame. The Hearthflame is the Pokemon that is the most important to stop in this matchup, because that's the only thing that can stop a Grass Terra Heatran. Grass Terra Heatran beats Flutter, it beats Ursh, it beats Rilla, it beats Bolt, it beats Incin, it beats all of them, right? Hearthflame is the only thing stopping that from working. So we need to put pressure. We need to put as many Intimidates on this thing as possible and force it into as many like turns we have to waste using Swords Dance. And again, that's a skill check because that forces them to have the Swords Dance. And then if they have Swords Dance, they might not have Spiky Shoulder Follow Me. And you can see how they can start to like give us an advantage moving forward. So going against this one, I really feel comfortable with the Ogerpon here. I think you just hard swap in Heatran, right? Hard swap in Heatran, easy peasy. If we take a little bit of damage, take a little bit of damage, not the end of the world. Even if you were to like close combat my Heatran on the swap, you're intimidated, so it's not like I'm gonna get KO'd. And we just go for a U-turn. And I think I U-turn the Ursh in every single situation here, because I don't want to get spiky shielded, and I need to reapply my Intimidate. I almost just hard swapped my Lando, but again, I wanted to be able to bring out the Ogerpon to block a an attack if they wanted to go for a Surging Strike. So they go for the Detect, which means they're not Scarfed, which means that's awesome. I don't need to deal with that. And they just go for a Rock Cudgel. Remember, they're at -1. They have to crit here. And they can hit us. Is Ursaluna good for the Grand Challenge? Yeah, it is good. So you can see that doesn't do anything to Heatran. Like, -1, Heatran don't care. Heatran don't care, bro. Heatran says you gotta be this tall or ride. The ultimate skill check. Leftovers busted. So Heatran's just chilling, right? Just chilling. And you can go for a... What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Are you gonna go for a Surging Strikes? You know, I got an Ogerpon in the back. You can go for a close combat. You're intimidated, right? So it's like, you're thinking, like, what you gonna do? And I don't have to care. Don't have to care. I'm in a good spot because they're not gonna Surging Strikes, right? They're not clicking Surging Strikes. It's not happening. There's an Ogerpon in the back. They're not gonna throw the game. Worst case scenario, they close combat. And then, like, even if they do, that opens up a repin for me to utilize my Flutter and my Lando and just, like, roll them all over, right? So it's like, even in the situation where they maybe could get lucky and take a KO on the Heatran or something, it's fine. Right? See, like, right here, what they're doing is they're fishing for crits. And that's not how this goes. That's not how any of this works. And so I want to talk about this. We're coming in with the Ogerpon here. I think it's really important that we're coming in with... I think I come with the Ogerpon here, right? Yeah. And I think we're trying to block a Surging Strikes. Because they were anticipating us going Grass Terra. Right? That whole turn, they were anticipating the Grass Terra. There's the block here. Now, in this situation, they targeted Lando. Why did they target Lando? What does that mean about the Pokemon that they have in the back that they have to target Lando? That's a big tell to me that they have Pokemon in the back that Landorus gives problems. They're trying to remove the Lando because they saw it as a threat. Right? So that means they might have Rillaboom. Which, like, U-turn cycling would be really good into Rillaboom. They might also have Incin. They might also have Bolt. Those are all 3 Pokemon. So they obviously have an aspect of that core in the back. So Ogerpon comes in, and now, free damage. Look at that. Look at that damage. This Heatran only has, like, 36 points in special attack, and we get a lefties tick? Like, yes, please. And now I pin your Ursh because we confirm that you're not Scarfed. I'm good. I'm eating good in the neighborhood. I'm Arby's over here. What are you going to do? Detect, like... We're in such a good spot here. Such a good spot. Now, we don't know how fast that Ogerpon is, but he's about to be at -2. And I think you just, like, check the Ursh. And we want to see what they swap into. You can swap into Incin. You can swap into Rilla. Like, no big deal at all. Because even if you do swap, your Ursh is faster than my Heatran, right? So that means you swap in Incin or Rilla, and then I swap out Heatran and I stick an Intimidate on it. That's a second Intimidate on the Ogerpon. If they had Swords Dance, they would have used it instead of chucking 3 Ivy Cudgels at us, right? So there's the pivot of the Urshifu, easy peasy, right? And you come in with Rillaboom, easy. How about an Intimidate, please? Buy one, get one freeze. These, please. Heatran will be back. And we gotta think, what is the last mon here? What is it? What is the last mon? Second Intimidate on the Ogerpon. Very, very good stuff. Woodhammer. Nah, fam. Like, Ogerpon good. That's a second Intimidate. You can't just fish for crits. See how they're trying to just, like, they're trying to just shove the Hearthflame in. They won't take the tempo loss to swap it out. And if they do, that's just too many points down, right? They don't really have that many things that can really swap in that well. And so, like, we talked about Rilla here. Rilla is honestly just a U-turn, like, easy U-turn. Easiest U-turn of my life. You never have to, like, overcommit here. And so we're just thinking what we want to do. I saw someone using Incin Parting Shot Grimmsnarl for Omega and Tim cycles. Yeah, it's good. It loses to a lot of stuff. Like, it loses hard to, like, Farigiraf and Psychic Terrain, but, like, that was really big back in Sword and Shield. Anyways, and at the start of Scarlet and Violet, like, I don't think Grim had Parting Shot back in Sword and Shield, but, like, in Tin, they had, like, other pivot users and stuff like that. Screens and Parting Shots. But yeah, I do really think this is a very, very good pin, and at this point, you don't need to go after the Ogerpon. Like, at the second we get him, like, Spiky Shield and, like, trying to weave in other stuff like that, we got him in the deep... We're waiting for the Ogerpon to blow a defensive move, and then we're going to double into it. Last matchup of the day, Final Gambit, Ape, Hard TR. Oh, yeah, that's rough. So Ogerpon gets flinched, not the end of the world. Fat U-turn. Look at that. Woo! If I Spiky Shielded there, that Rillaboom would have been probably almost KO'd. But now we're going to be able to get another Intimidate when we feel like it. So we can come in with the Heatran here, right? You come in with the Heatran, and you get a lefties tick and a Grassy Terrain tick, and then you can weave in a Protect. Heatran's basically at full health. And we already know that we outspeed the Urshifu with our Ogerpon. Like, we are in such a good spot here. Such a good spot. Oh, it's like chef's kiss level of busted. And if the Lando wanted to, sorry, if the Rillaboom wanted to read like a high horsepower into the Heatran or something like that, it would have been KO because we doubled into the Rilla with the Ogerpon, right? So it's like he would have been able to fake out and high horsepower. It was such a good pin. It was so good. Massive value. So we're thinking what else they want to do in this situation. I'm feeling like I'm in a pretty good spot here. They got it. The realistic, what this guy had to do was pivot out that Ogerpon. He's at like -2 attack, and he's just like fishing for crits. So there's that Spiky Shield, right? Now that Spiky Shield is down, now I can just be like, all right, chuck the kitchen sink at it, right? So we get the KO on the Rilla. He could have went for a Grassy Glide. Honestly, it didn't really matter. He's intimidated. Wouldn't have done that much to our Ogerpon. We restore health with Horn Leech and the Grassy Terrain, so we're in a really, really good spot. Doesn't really matter what they want to come out with, I don't think. But Heat Wave's good. I think they come with for Rigoraph here, if I recall correctly. Maybe not for Rigoraph. I'm trying to remember this game. But there's not that much they can really do. Like, we are in a really... And they might come with Ursh. But there's nothing to do about it. Like, there's no way you really get out of these pins. Heatran busted. So think what they want to come in with here. Even Bolt would get kind of messed up here. Because we haven't even shown our Flutter yet. That's the thing that's, like, super important here. That's in Sin. Yeah, it was in Sin, yeah. So in Sin... Honestly, like, not the biggest deal here. They still have their Terra, but it doesn't, like, get them anything, like, at all. And what we want to do is we want to chuck a little bit of damage, I think. No, actually, do we do that? We should have chucked damage at the, No, actually, I like this play. I like what I'm doing here because if we just stick the Intimidate here, we win the game. And, like, honestly, that Ogerpon should just be pivoting out. They should go for, like, pivot out the Ogerpon and fake out something, but it's fine. I think I'm trying to get all the health that I can on my Heatran this turn. And then get my Ogerpon unintimidated so I can just one-shot the Incin when I feel like it. So Landers comes in, another Intimidate value. Good stuff. I want to see we fake outs. Could I have doubled into the Ogerpon and gotten the KO? And would that have been a good play? They cudgeled the Heatran, and they didn't go for a fake out, right? They went for they Flare Blitzed the Heatran. Yeah, they tried to catch me swapping in something else. They tried to catch me swapping in something else. So I agree with that. They're obviously not bad enough to, like, proc a Flash Fire, but at the same time, like, you know, it is what it is. But Heatran's obviously saying you gotta be this tall to ride. Anyways, at this point, you ain't got nothing. I don't think they go for another Flash Fire. They don't go for another Flare Blitz into the Heatran. They thought I was going to pivot, and I think they thought I was going to bring in something. I think they tried to catch the Landorus in case I swapped out Heatran for Lando to finish off the Lando since we were at half. I think that was the play. I think they read Spiky Shield, and then they were just ignored. They didn't want to take a Spiky Shield tick, so they doubled into the Heatran. So anyways, we just go Grass Terrier here because now that the... whatever other Pokemon is gone. Now that the Rillaboom is... Oh, so that's their Terra. Sorry. That's their Terra. I think I could have Terastallized my Heatran here, though, because, like, you don't have... No, actually, I don't know why I'm talking about this. I can't Terastallize my Heatran until the Ogerpon's gone. Once it's gone, there's nothing that checks me. Ivy comes in. You're at -3. It doesn't do any damage. U-turn. Look at that fat damage. Dumpy. KO'd by U-turn, bro. By U-turn. Bando. Sheesh. Holy moly. Look at that. That's a lot of damage. And, like, honestly, I'd rather not show Flutter, so we're just going to come with Ogerpon. We know their last Pokemon is Ursh. It now no longer has Terra, which means we just win with, like, Heatran Ogerpon here. EP gets redirected into the Incin. Look at that damage off the crit here, too. Good stuff. They go for a knockoff, and it doesn't even knock off my Wellspring Mass because I can't lose that. That's so good. Such a good turn. Masterclass over here on positioning. It's like, I feel like my team is balanced. But at the same time, like, I don't have any fake outs. It's like a really, really weird, like, chonk balance. It's very, like, it's not just because I'm using Cress and Heatran, but it's very chalk-esque. Does that make sense? It's very chalk-esque. Because it has, like, the redirecting grass type, the Heatran, the Cress, the Lando, right? It's basically just chalk. And the team just works. Easy peasy, right? So not that much they can really do here. I think I do Terastallize this turn because there's nothing that breaks the Heatran at this point. And we just take the wins. Now they scoop it up. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy, and we go to 2-1. 2-1, not bad. Not bad. So going into our next game here. Going into our next game here. And you can see their team is right there. So we see Walking Wake, Latias, Gambit, Chi-Yu, Rilla, and Whimsicott. What Pokemon on their team is the most important Pokemon? What is the most important Pokemon here? What Pokemon, if we stop it, do we win? There's one answer. There's one Pokemon that if we make it really, really hard to use that Pokemon, we win. It's Chi-Yu. Man, you're 2 for 2. It's Chi-Yu, 100%. Yeah. So Chi-Yu's the only real threat to our team. Wake is a bunch of single target damage. Worst case scenario, you redirect it here. Rilla, don't care about Rilla, I have a Heatran, right? Latias, don't care about Latias, I have a Heatran. King Gambit, don't care about King Gambit, I have a Heatran, right? You're starting to see a situation where like the only thing is like basically what they're trying to do is break the Heatran, and then the Chi-Yu comes in and just heat waves everything, right? See, man, I'm not bad at logic. I just forget how to play when it's my turn to click buttons. Yeah, so basically, like, what they're trying to do with this team is, like, Whimsicott, and then you set up this thing, and then you blow up some stuff, and then, like, the Heatran has to Terra, and then you punish it with Chi-Yus and stuff like that. And as long as we don't let that happen, we're going to be in a good spot. So going to this game here, we're going to be utilizing our Heatran, because Heatran's pretty good. So we go Wellspring. I really, really like Wellspring here, especially because they don't have Intimidates, and you can just lead the Heatran to this matchup. Like, you don't really have to. I don't know if I locked these two in for this game, but, like, it's a solid lead. You definitely have to go Cress in this one. Actually, do you have to go Cress? Let me think about that. You don't have to. Moltres is good here. Let me think about this. I think Moltres Heatran is good. And then, like, I don't think I bring Bando to this matchup because that's giving them, like, the only way out. Do I bring Landorus? I don't need it. I do not need Landorus. It's Flutter. Yep. There we go. Yeah. Flutter is really, really good because in those late game situations where you just need one more Pokemon to do a little bit of chip, that's something I can use to check a Scarf Chi-Yu. That's something I can use to check a Booster Energy. What is that Pokemon? Walking Wake. Like, Flutter Mane is the perfect last mine. You see, actually, I bring Flutter Mane a lot in the back on this team because they see all the balance tools, and then the Flutter Mane comes out in a really weird position and just, like, steals a KO or gives me that one little bit of speed control. It's almost like using Flutter Mane as, like, a Prankster Tailwind setter in the back. It's really, really good. So going into this game here, and survey says King Gambit and Wake. So one thing I really want to talk about here is that they use King Gambit in the first slot. I think it's really, really important. That means they're anticipating Landorus, right? That's why they selected, they looked at my team and said, I need King Gambit. So that King Gambit probably has some sort of Terra that lets it deal with Heatran. It probably also wants to deal with you can tell the Wake is there to deal with the Landorus and the King Gambit is there to deal with the Heatran. So like, it's giving me, like, I'm just saying, from my tells here, it looks like Fire Terra King Gambit, right? Because, like, the Wake is there to peel the Landorus off, so you actually can Fire Terra your Gambit in front of the Heatran. That's the vibe that I'm getting off of this information, right? And so, we just need to be a little bit respectful of it. Just a little bit. And so, I'm going to see if I can force a Terra here. I know for a fact I'm not afraid of anything that the King Gambit does. It would suck if they got a Swords Dance, right? It'd suck, but I'm, like, not afraid. Look at this, look at this. I also want to talk about this. This is such a ballsy play. Now, you can see I'm going to click Grass Terra on my Heatran here. I'm committing a Terra because I want to chuck the damage. I want to fish for burns. I want to do what I want. But, like, the balls on our opponent to look at this lead and oh, also, I want to talk about this. They led like this. Oh my gosh, I just restarted the whole thing. They led with those two Pokemon. The Wake didn't photosynthesize. Is it Scarf Wake? Is this Scarf weakness policy like Flip Turn Aqua Jet Wake into Fire Terra King Gambit? Like, what is the tech here? Is it Sash Wake? Is it Cloak Wake? Is it Specs Wake? What is the, why didn't get a booster energy? I really, really wanted to get a booster speed. So, like, I know that there's a cheese happening because the Wake didn't have something activate. So, I know for a fact I'm going to have to Grass Terra my Heatran in this matchup, right? I have to. I'm looking at the board, I'm like, I have to preserve Heatran. If I can stick some damage here, I can win the game. I think that I'm going to go with the Heat Wave here because I'm looking at it. I'm like, if I can force that King Gambit into a Terra Fire, which I really think it is, I can then just come with Ogerpon and Ivy Cudgel it. That's the idea. And I also want a Tailwind just in case, like, something weird does happen. I will maintain speed control so I can start checking things. So, you know, I'm committing a Terra, but I feel like committing this Terra does solve all of my problems. I've never boosted my Wake. I mean, I think it's good, but I just feel it's not... I still think this one should have been booster, but it looked to me like it was Specs. I think also Life Orb is acceptable, but like, we're going to see what they have. So Heatran popping the big Grass Terra. I'm basically saying, like, if you would like to Hydro Steam me, you're going to have a bad time, right? And they protect the King Gambit, which, like, checks, right? So Hydro Steam, he did Hydro Steam. I could have, like, protected my Heatran. I could have pivoted in my Water Pond. I could have done so many things. That's just crazy. I cannot believe the cojones on this person for actually just turn 1 Hydro Steaming my Heatran. Raw. And I said, I said, no, stop it. Get some help, bro. And so I'm looking at that Wake. That Wake also didn't take Orb Chip. It was strong, but that looked to me like low roll level of Specs that resist it. So I'm like, are you Specs? Is it Cloak? Like, what is the Wake doing? And so the way I looked at it, I was like, well, either he's Specs and that was really weak, or if he Dracos and that's his damage, like, I'm fine, right? So I'm like, what are you going to do? Draco Meteor me? Go nuts. I don't care. All I got to do is make sure this Gambit does not win the game this turn. And so people keep asking, like, what does Moltres bring to the table? These are the games where Moltres is really good. Moltres is like a really unique jank stopper. People don't really like to deal with the Moltres. They don't really know where it's going. They don't know if it's going to nasty plot. They have to deal with the Fiery Wrath flinches. Like, it's a solid mon. So we're seeing Terra, and I'm so happy to see Terra this early. What kind of Terra is it? I believe is it normal? It was normal, right? I don't know what this is. I'm like, I don't know what that's for, right? Is it for, like, Giga Impact? I have no clue. I don't care. No clue what that's for, but whatever. I don't care. That's big damage. And even if you did Swords Dance this turn, which I don't think they do, like, I don't care. The Hydro Steam, the Moltres, nothing. And so again, it's giving, like, really weird Giga Impact, right? And I was like, is he thinking he's gonna stab, like, Guillotine or something? Like, I have no clue what that's for, right? But we don't care at all. And so we see the lefties here, and I'm like, man, Swords Dance, they should have, if they had Swords Dance, they should have done it that turn. Honestly, they should have. But at the same time, we have a massive advantage. I don't really care what they have in the back. There shouldn't really be anything they can do to get, they are out of get out of jail free cards. They've wasted their Terra. That Walking Wake is a little bit too weak, and they have to play through massive amounts of AoE and me potentially flinching them. They go for Protect, obviously. We could have made a read here and went, like, Fiery Wrath, Earth Power to take out the Wake. Don't need to. It's not even required at all. I just had to make sure that, like, we're respecting the Gambit, because the Gambit is, like, the one thing here, because there's no way that we lose our Heatran unless we get crit. There's no way we lose Heatran unless we get crit. And then, like, as long as Heatran survives, Chi-Yu doesn't work. There's a crit on the Heat Wave, right? So Draco Meteor doesn't get it. Doesn't get it. So we take those. 100%. 100%. Heatran just playing off vibes. And now, right now, Heatran is within range of Sucker Punch, and we don't particularly have to just let that happen. There's no reason to just eat a Sucker Punch. What I think they should be doing probably is, like, I would say you go Sucker Punch and Hydro Steam into the Heatran if you want to make sure, but then at the same time, if I pivot in the Ogre Pond, we block that up. Easy peasy, right? So we're trying to get the Wake off the board. And then from here, like, because King Gambit is so low, we know they're going to be Sucker Punching here, right? So, like, we know it's a free swap. Heatran's going to swap out, soak a little bit, come back later to fight Chi-Yu. And we know that there's Chi-Yu. I think that's the thing that's really important. You know they have Chi-Yu. They've been throwing the freaking kitchen sink at this Heatran this whole time, especially from that first turn. They tried to remove that Heatran so fast. You know they have Chi-Yu. Like, Rillaboom's right there, but you know that they have Chi-Yu. It has to be somewhere. So we don't really care what happens here. Sucker Punch is going to whiff, and Moltres is going to be able to stick a little bit of damage here. Fiery Wrath. And so now they have lefties going with the Gambit, lefties and the grassy terrain, but, like, I don't really think it matters. Like, Heatran's still around, we still have the Flutter. Like, we're in a great spot here. As long as the King Gambit never gets a Swords Dance off, I think we're doing great. Tail Pierce out, but we don't really need it at this point in this matchup. You can go for a Fake Out, but then what if I Spiky Shield you? Like, you don't want to have that happen. And so I'm looking at this board and I'm like, I just have enough resources. Like, worst case scenario, they protect Gambit and, like, Woodhammer crit my Ogre Pawn, but they'd take so much recoil, and if you wanted to make that play, you still have to play through potentially getting flinched by Fire Wrath. So the right play here, in, like, every situation, in my opinion, is just double the Gambit. Get the Gambit off the board, force them into the Chi-Yu, they lose the game, because I have Heatran, right? Easy peasy. Like, there's There's no reason to be weird about it. They'd have to play through so many little things. And yeah, you see, they're trying to steal it. They're thinking I'm going to go Spiky Shield, and we're just like, nah, fam, that ain't me. They're trying to make reads. They're trying to make plays, and I'm like, no, you got it. You got to, like, pass Ko before you get your $200. You keep them honest, is what we say, right? Get the Gambit off the board, do some chip damage. I think we get a double KO this turn. They bring back in the Wake and just get, and then they have to bring out the Rillaboom and then their last Pokemon, and we basically just win, right? Easy peasy. Yep. That's all she wrote. I bet you they tried to like SD that turn. Or like go for like a big double up into the Moltres or something. So that guy's gone. And now it's down for their last two Pokemon. We know one of them's Rillaboom. And I'm pretty sure it's AV. We were able to confirm AV based off of how the Rillaboom took the Fiery Wrath. But remember what we saved at this from the first turn of the game. We were like, we kept the Heatran alive. So if this Chi-Yu is choiced, which like of course it's either Spexed or Scarfed, they can't use fire moves. They just can't. They just can't. They have to Dark Pulse. And if they have to go through the trouble of Dark Pulsing things, we're going to see what they lock into here. We're going to get a little bit of, you know, a little bit of value. We're going to block the fake outs. We're going to see what they lock into. And then they don't really have any like discourse here. They already blew their Terra. And then like, it is going to be a Scarf Chi-Yu. I'm just going to give you guys a heads up. But like, let's say they go for the situation where they protect the Chi-Yu and then like Woodhammer crit our Ogerpon. They take a lot of recoil. They have to play through the Moltres doing stuff. They show the Dark Pulse and like, honestly, because they're not Scarfed, that means they can never really check the Flutter and we win the game easy peasy, right? So he goes for the Woodhammer and that's a good play. But nah, Ogerpon says you gotta be this tall to ride. And so I'm assuming that that is Scarfed. But at the same time, like I really think because they have to lock in the Dark Pulse, now Moltres just wins the game, right? So I'm thinking like, I hope I don't get flinched, but at the same time, like, it doesn't matter. Like, we go for the Tailwind here to make sure the Heatran outspeeds, so Heatran can come in and just Earth Power the Chi-Yu. Because, like, Earth Power plus Fire Wrath would probably break the Chi-Yu if it was Scarfed. And I think they're actually just not Scarfed. Yeah, I think they're Spexed. Yep, so, dumpied. Just dumpied. And we take those wins. Easy peasy, right? Easy peasy. So, we said that the Chi-Yu would not be working, and we did everything in our power to make it not work. So that was great. So we're at 3-1. And yeah, we tailwinded there, not like we really need it, but like there's nothing they can really do in this situation. Like we're trying to win without showing our Flutter. I think it's the second game we've won without even having to show it. We show our Citrus Berry, unfortunately. They actually went Protect U-turn and procced our Citrus. So they actually just went to like fish that little bit of extra damage out. But then like honestly, that's going to be the game here. So the next game, our fifth game, we're 3-1. We're going to be going up against Dozo, Ursa, Moon stuff with Bolt. And I'm looking at this, and Dozo, by the way, is an auto loss for this team. I have no ways to deal with the Dozo. I have absolutely none. I can try to Intimidate cycle it. That only gets you so far. You basically just gonna get cycled. It's not even an Intimidate cycle. I have one Intimidator that can come in like every other turn, but like you can just spam Order Up, right? Cresselia is not that great into it. Ogerpon can slow it down a little bit, but it's not great. So trying to think of exactly what we need to do against this team is going to be really, really hard. There isn't really any amazing lines. We can lead Flutter here and try and pin the Moon off the rip. But that being said, it's not looking good. We have to lead like this and try and stick Intimidates. You have to bring Crest, you have to bring Ogerpon. I don't think it's possible to really bring Heatran or Moltres just because they have zero value against the Dozo. And, you know, we're just trying to hope that we can make this kind of work. They have access to like Glamora here too if they wanted to go for like some sort of hazards and things like that. But we have two flying types and we have access to Lunar Blessing, so we're okay. That being said, if we just start this one up right here, you can see they're going to be leading off with Roaring Moon and Bolt. So honestly, what else could they have? Ursaluna and Glamora? They have Dozo Tatsu, right? This just confirms 100% Dozo Tatsu. They're trying to set up a Tailwind so they can bring in the Dozo and leverage advantage off that. So I'm trying to think what I need to do in this matchup. What is the play that needs to happen here, knowing that they have Dozo? We see the speed booster on the Flutter Mane and the Roaring Moon, right? But the Roaring Moon's intimidated. What would you do? If you're in this situation, I want everyone's opinion. Chat. What do you do with this lead? You have Booster Speed Flutter and Banded Landorus against Intimidated Booster Speed Roaring Moon and Bolt. And you know that they have Dozo Datsu in the back. What are all of our options? Let's break it down. Option 1. Moonblast the Roaring Moon and stop the Tailwind. Right? Switch out Lando. What, am I U-turning or am I hard swapping? really important, right? D-Gleam, Earthquake. We do not have D-Gleam. We have Moonblast, Icy Wind, Taunt, Protect. We could Icy Wind, but then if they Tailwind and I Icy Wind, that's a loss. Flutter Mane is not within range of the Moon getting a KO because of its Intimidate. So I don't have to worry about getting like, I mean, I guess if they wanted to like Iron Head me, which they don't, that didn't happen. But I'm trying to think like, what is the option here? Is there an option that lets us play around everything? Because I don't think there is. I think that I could ignore the Roaring Moon and double the Bolt, and I think that that's a fair play. But at the same time, it's just really hard. So I'm looking at what they have. I know that they have to have Dozo, right? They have to have it. And so I'm looking at this one. I'm like, Roaring Moon gives me more problems than I would like. Because I know that I have like Ogerpon in the back too. And so I'm looking at what I can do here. I thought about just taunting it, if I'm being honest. I really thought about just taunting it. But I go for the Icy Wind here and a U-turn. And I like this play. What I'm saying with this is I'm going to give you the Tailwind, but I want the KO on the Moon to speed up the game to pivot out my Lando. And I like that choice. I felt it was a good choice. But it's not the right choice. Not the right choice. I get blendered. So they go Protect Moon, obviously, on the turn when I try and double into it. And they Thunderclap my Flutter. Doesn't do a ton. It's giving AV Bolt vibes. So Icy Wind comes out. I think, do I hit the Flutter? Or sorry, I hit that. And so I can confirm that it is AV. That's AV, right? So AV Bolt. So now even if you get the Tailwind up, Bolt's not that fast. And so now in the situation, the problem is I'm locked into U-turn. If I were to be locked into Rock Slide or Earthquake, if I Stomping Tantrum that turn, I would have won the game. Because I just would swap the Swamping Tantrum over to the Bolt and get the double, right? But I didn't, right? So at this point, I just try to go for the damage. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to be like, all right, you can have your Tailwind. If I get to pivot up my Bolt, or my Landorus and bring back in, I get another Intimidate, which means I'm not afraid of my Flutter getting KO'd by your Moon. And then I'm fine. But I'm just trying to force the Terra on the Roaring Moon here. Because, like, I showed Icy Wind. I'm thinking, like, if they think they can just eat Icy Wind, maybe they think I don't have Moonblast, right? I'm just going to try and go for the Moonblast this turn. Because last turn they were scouting for Moonblast. Honestly, in hindsight, I should have just taunted them. If I just taunted that Roaring Moon and U-turned, I would have won the game, I think. Because they couldn't protect, you know? So they go Flying Terra. And I was more afraid of Steel Terra, if I'm being honest. But Flying Terra is worse for me. So, because they resist everything. So they eat the damage. Tailwind comes out. Now they got speed control. Go for my U-turn. Good chip. Puts it within range for stuff later on in the game. Potentially. But still, it's a bit of an uphill battle right here. And they did not go for a Thunderclap. And I'm like, okay, whatever swaps in has to be swapping in on something. I'm thinking that they're Thunderbolting my Flutter, and I know the Flutter won't go down to a Thunderbolt here. So they go for a Volt Switch, which is the same base power as Thunderclap, which means we still don't go down. We actually could live potentially another Thunderclap if we had to, if they low-rolled it. So we know that they have to come in with a part of the Dozo core, right? It's probably just the Dozo. And I really like that Ogerpon is already on the board. It sucks that there's a Roaring Moon on the board, but at the same time, like, what do you want me to do? So what do you got here? You got the Dozo. So there's Dozo right there. And I'm thinking to myself, like, there's not that much that they really can do here. Because if they want to get the Dozo going and get the order ups going, they have to pivot in the top, so they have to lock in. And then it really just comes down to what type of Dozo that is. They have a Tailwind up, but it's totally possible that our Flutter Mane can still have value here. So the fact that we see them swap out the Roaring Moon in for the Tatsu, that's so good for me. Because now I don't need to be there's no more 50-50s. I think I just played passive that turn and just let everything happen. I think they go for an Earthquake. They go for an Earthquake this turn. And so now it's all four of my Mons versus Dozo Tatsu. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, depending on how that Dozo is built, my Ogerpon could win. Depending on how it's built. It's going to be rough, but it's definitely possible. So we Spiky Shield here just because like we're trying to waste time on the Tailwind, try and make them go for that little 50-50 here. They go for an EQ that would have KO'd my Flutter Mane, and you know I like that play. They're playing around the redirection here. And so if I'm thinking that's what they're going to do again, I think this turn I pivot out my Flutter Mane for Cress and go for a Horn Leech, right? That's probably, I think, the right play here. I was thinking about just Grass Tearing and soaking it. I was really thinking about it, but I know that I need to save that Grass Terra to be able to check the Thunderbolt, or the Thunderclap from the Raging Bolt. So we just go for the Horn Leech here, and I'd like to do a lot with this. Obviously, a Horn Leech crit would just win me the game, right? And that's why I think that we have to go for this, right? So he's pivoting the Cress, and the idea here is to go for, like, Horn Leech, Winter Blessing, Horn Leech, Winter Blessing, make them go into order up so what they're going into here, but, like, maybe I'll outvalue over time, right? That's the idea. Horn Leech does not do that much at all, right? At all. I restore a little bit of health, but then we see it's Rocky Helmet, and I'm like, oh, that's bad, but then, oh, that's good. You don't have lefties, which means I can actually play this as passive as I want. I can weave in Icy Winds. I can go for Spike. I can do any. I have so much more time now. I can go like literally every other turn, like Spiky Shield, Lunar Blessing if I wanted to heal up the Ogre Pawn. And then, like, I'll get the guy low enough to eventually finish them off with the Flutter Mane. And if we stick an Icy Wind into it, we know we always outspeed him if they had the +2, right? So I feel really good knowing that that was Rocky Helmet. So anyways, that's good, right? We're coming back in this situation. And we know that they have, like, a full health Bolt. But, like, we have Lando. Like, Lando's ready to check that Bolt whenever I feel like it. So thinking about what they want to do this turn. They're big thinking. They got the +1 attack from the order up last turn. We're just going for Spiky Shield. We're trying to weave in a, I think an Icy Wind this turn. Because an Icy Wind this turn would basically allow us to go for any other sort of combinations of moves of like Ogre Pawn would start to outspeed again, Flutter Guarantee outspeeds and stuff like that. So this Icy Wind is still really important. In my opinion, I think it's important. Maybe I could be right or could be wrong, but I think it's important. Going into the next turn here, basically just trying to speed up things up a little bit. I go for another Horn Leech. Horn Leech takes some chip. They go for, I think, a Wave Crash into Crest this turn. So they're at +4 Wave Crash into Crest. They get the KO, they take a lot of chip, and this is going to open up the spot for Flutter Mane to come in. And the way I'm looking at this is they're low enough now to where if Flutter Mane comes in and Moonblast KOs Dozo, and I get to break a potential Sash on Tatsu and get a good fat heal from a Horn Leech, I win the game. Flutter Mane outspeeds Roaring Moon. I have Lander to check the Bolt. This should be game, right? Really thinking about it, like, do I need to protect Flutter, like Horn Leech here, that might not KO, so like, this turn is really, really important. I watched a video of the cup you won, and I really like it. I hope you keep it coming. Yo, I'm trying my best, trying my absolute best to make more. I might go to another one this weekend. So we go for the Moonblast, and don't you know, he lives, and that really sucks, because I needed to get the damage on the Tatsu, not just because, like, I needed to check for Sash, but like, Tatsu could live a Moonblast. It's actually really important that we got that damage on it. I wanted to scout for Sash. I wanted to heal on the Tatsu. That would have been super, super, super important to get that damage on the Tatsu. So unfortunately, we don't. Tatsu is now free to do whatever it wants. So now, like, Sash Tatsu's a really, really big issue for me right now. They could come in with the Roaring Moon. They could potentially set up another Tailwind. Like, it's scary. We know the Bolt has to come in because they have the Thunderclap, right? I want you guys to tell me, I'm going to give you guys a spoiler, I lose. Tell me how I throw here, because, like, I think I win. I still think that I win this matchup. I think there is a way to win, 100%. In this situation, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be Moonblasting this Tatsu, thinking I pick up the KO, and I'm going to be following to stop the Thunderclap, right? I thought that was a solid play. I thought that was a good play. And it was a good play. I'm not having to, that Bolt, if they had Electro Web, they would have been using it already. They don't have it. They have Volt Switch, Thunderclap, a Dragon Attack, and, like, probably Snarl, right? So we're going to protect here. We're going to get some free damage out. We're basically just like scouting for where their speed tiers are and what they want to do. They protect the Tatsu, and we just go for a Horn Leech into the Tatsu because we needed to hit it, right? We did need to hit it, and we don't really have to care that much about this Bolt. I think they just went for a Volt Switch into the Flutter, right? Yeah, easy peasy, right? So this is the turn that I go for the Follow Me, right? I go for the Follow Me to block a Thunderclap, and they're probably thinking like, fine, I'll just Thunderclap if you're not going to use it. Yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So we Follow Me, they Draco Meteor here. Let's get ahead of myself. Thunderclap's going to whiff. Moonblast doesn't KO Tatsu. Which of course it doesn't, right? Moonblast doesn't KO Tatsu. Draco Meteor pins my Ogre Pawn. And the stupidest thing here is I should still win here. And I don't know how I throw. I should still win here. All right. They have those plus Roaring Moon. Tell me how I lose this, right? They've already Terra'd. If I go Stomping Tantrum here and Moonblast here, if you protect here and you pivot in Roaring Moon, that's fine. Landorus already outspeeds Tatsu. I could just go hit here and hit there. All I have to do is blow Terra, right? Missed Rock Slides. That is how I lose. Yeah, I missed the Rock Slide. Yeah, I do miss the Rock Slide. But like, I think as long as I would have just Stomping Tantrumed and realized that Flutter checked everything and always outsped the Moon, and the fact that Moon had taken the enough damage to be put within that range, we always win. Yeah, so I missed Rock Slide this turn and I lose. Yeah, but like, I think we have it locked up to where no matter what, we know that we were able to break that bolt with a Stomping Tantrum from Bando. And they can't Terra. I was worried about them pivoting in Roaring Moon and blocking it, but it doesn't matter. Because then I would just go for the hit into the Roaring Moon with the Moonblast and the Stomping Tantrum into the Tatsu, right? We always win. There's not a single way to lose other than like weird Quick Claw Tatsu shenanigans. I completely threw. I completely threw it. There's a 100% solve. So it is what it is. Rock Slide misses. You know, I got caught up on them pivoting in the Roaring Moon, and I just missed Rock Slide this turn. So we go for the Grass Terra, and again, that is to stop Thunderclap from getting a KO this turn. They went for, you know, passive. Well, I'll show you guys what happened. Sorry. Shouldn't get ahead of myself like that. Yeah, so I miss Rock Slide on the Bolt. And yeah. And I die. Yep. And then you come in with Roaring Moon, you have 2. And tell me here, right? I should still win. I'm looking at it, right? I should still win this. The Bolt's at -2, right? What do you target here? Icy Wind will not KO the Roaring Moon. I calced it. It won't. Icy Wind will not KO the Roaring Moon or the Bolt. You have to Moonblast one. And the Roaring Moon is already shown Protect. So, I'll just let it play. If I Moonblast the Roaring Moon, and I think Draco would have finished me off even at -2. I go for them reading Protect, and they don't Protect. I made a read. I made an incorrect read, and I threw the game. The never lucky throwing game championships intensifies. I should have hit the Roaring Moon because it would have A, forced them to hit a Draco, and B, forced that Draco to be strong enough to break my Flutter at -2. I should have always hit the Moon. Because even if I hit the Moon and you don't KO Draco, maybe I could crit an Icy Wind or something. You know, it would give me one more chance. So that was a hard L to swallow. But like, I feel like reviewing those games is really important. You know, it's important to review those games. There's a lot to learn even in losses. But I had the lockup when I had the Lando, and I just missed a Rock Slide. You know, we missed the Rock Slide. Never lucky. Going into this next game here, we're gonna go up against like Ursa Luna for Rig and Ogerpon. Let's talk about this. What is the Pokemon that is the most important Pokemon on this person's team against mine? Do you guys know what it is? What is something that if we delay what this thing does, we win the game? It's pretty obvious for this one. But you guys can figure it out. So they're threatening to go like Torn Flutter with like Specs. Think Ogerpon again. Nope, it's not Ogerpon. The reason why it was Ogerpon on the last one is because Ogerpon was the only Pokemon that could hit the Heatran. They have something that's much better at hitting Heatran on this team. Frig. Nope. It's Ursa. It's obviously Ursa. It's Ursa, guys. It's freaking right there. If you break the Ursa, none of these guys do anything to this core. It's Ursa, yeah. It's like if you break the Ursa, like, bro, your fucking team loses the Moltres for the most part. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So it's Ursa, right? Because like, basically, if you want to go Trick Room, like, go Trick Room with your Ogerpon and your Flutter, all in with Heatran, right? So, like, if you make the Ursa really, really hard to use, Heatran just checks everything, right? So, that being said, you can see I'm going to go with Intimidate. I'm going to go up with my Heatran here, and I bring Crest. We're going full balance with one. We're not bringing any aggressive tools. We're going to meet their ability. Doesn't Farigiraf or Ursa? All right, great question, right? So, I don't need to stop the Farigiraf to stop the Luna, right? The way it works is I will let the Frig do whatever it wants, but if the Luna doesn't work, your Trick Room doesn't work. which means like by beating the Luna, by making the Luna hard to function, the Farigiraf can't function. You're going to see how that works in this game. But yeah, you don't need to check the Farig. The Frig will check itself by having the Luna the Luna locked up, if that makes any sense. Does that make sense? 2 birds, 1 stone. If you, like, the same thing is, like, the way to stop, like, Torkoal in Trick Room is to, like, have a Prankster Rain Dance Mon and just make the Torkoal a wet noodle, right? That's how you would stop those things. So anyways, going to this game here, and remember, we're just coming off a loss where I threw the whole thing. How many games you played today? This is my last one. So they go with Incin for Farigiraf, right? So that's a big tell that they're going with the Trick Room mode, which means they have the Ursa. The Ursa's there somewhere. And so all we got to do is like cycle these Intimidates, get the good damage. We're going to be in for a really good spot. We talked about why I like this lead so much against Incin, because like I can U-turn, stick good damage. I can pivot out my Ogre Pawn, Beret bring it back in, unintimidated, and pin. Am I planning on playing more? Not tonight. Nope. This is my last game today. I want to talk about how to actually come back in a situation where you get, I lost that last game. I was tilted, right? I threw it against a really bad matchup where I actually had multiple shots to win, and I threw. This is the never luckiest turn of my whole GC so far. So I go lock in the U-turn. I'm gonna let you TR, and I'm gonna flip it back with my Cress, right? And it's a big tell that's TR because Farigiraf on the first slot, easy peasy, right? So all we gotta do, we got the Intimidate up. We're going to U-turn, we're going to come back in with our Ogre Pawn, we're going to have Ogre Pawn Cress, and we're going to go like, check the Incin or Spiky Shield, flip it back, like easy peasy. We have the game locked up right here. Because the Farigirafs can take so much damage that like next turn, they can't imprison or flip back the TR if I'm locking them up with an Ogre Pawn. But just watch what happens. Just watch what happens. This is ridiculous. So we pivot in the Cress. They got the Lando. Good play, right? Good read. They're potentially giving me their Incin that turn. And that would have been a good play for them. I think that's a good target because, like, if I were to Ivy Coach or crit the Incin that turn, they bring out the Luna. And that's bad for me. I don't want to deal with that. But look at this board. Now, I want to talk about this, right? My Cresselia is Ghost Terra to check Luna. So it's not like I have, like, a Fairy Terror here to block the damage. I go for the U-turn. Sorry, I go for the Stomping Tantrum in the Incin, knowing that I can take it out. Because remember, last turn, they fake outed me, so my move didn't work. So that doubles the power of my Stomping Tantrum. Right? So I know that I delete their Incin this turn, and if they come with the Ursa, it's dead, right? And if they want to, like, parting shot, the Ursa will come in and just be absolutely melted. So, like, I'm thinking that I win the game, like, this turn. I'm thinking, like, there's no way we lose. Knockoff, you're intimidated, by the way. Crit, are you real? Are you real? Are you real? You really, really crit me with that. You really crit me with that. Hyper Voice, it gets worse. Double crit. 3 crits in 1 turn. 3 crits in 1 turn. And a throat spray. How tilted is it even possible to be as a person? And it actually gets worse. I do KO the Incin, which now it opens up a spot for the Ursa. And I didn't flip back the Trick Room. And I didn't U-turn. Right? What would you do? You know the Ursa's coming. How do you get out of this? What sort of mystery magic play? That's how all my games are going here, right? And they still have Terra, right? You say F? No, I say we're strong. I skill diff this player into a million different pieces. Because I still know that I have the tools to win. I have the right 3 Pokemon. As long as we can make them waste like 2 turns, we win. Because they actually, one of the good things about that is they wasted that first turn Trick Room not having your Ursa active. So basically, I know I'm playing passive here. But like, I go for a Spiky Shield. I'm making them waste their time, right? Yeah, we outplay to get it here. So you pivot here to block Facade, obviously. They're not going to be going for a headlong rush into a Landorus, right? We're going to soak a little bit of damage. We're going to try and get, if we can, any sort of Spiky Shield procs, which we do. Value. Now, I really like that play from them. Ursaluna obviously wasn't that strong because it didn't have its Facade or its Guts proc yet, but the Farigiraf was at +1, and that's a heavy special attack Farigiraf. You can tell by how much damage it did to our Lando, like, and how much it's doing to our Heatran, right? So, Ursa took a little bit of chip. Now Ursa's burned, right? And so this is the most important turn of the game. What is the Ursa doing? Are you doubling to the Ogre Pawn like you should, or are you afraid of Heatran? Now, there's a tell here. There's a skill check you can do here. If your last Pokemon is Ogre Pawn, you will check the Heatran. If you're now, like, they could have a bunch of different Pokemon on that team, but you will check the Heatran if your last Pokemon is Ogerpon. You will. So you play into that. They also note they did not Terastallize the Ursaluna last turn, which makes me think it might be like a double dip Terra. It might be ground. Why didn't you Ghost Terra it last turn? You could have Ghost Terra'd it, because I could have hit you in the face, honestly. And so what we do here is we go double dip our Ogerpon to make sure we don't take as much damage from the Friggraff. We come with the Lando to intimidate the Ursaluna, right? And we're going to Terastallize. And when we Terastallize right here, we're like, wait, why aren't they Terastallizing? They should have went Ghost a while ago. They didn't, right? And we get the Spadef boost. We're cooking. So this game's a good example, is even if you lose the game on turn 1 or turn 2, if you force your opponent to make mistakes, you could still win. Value. Cudgel. Dumpy. Big Dumpy. And that last Pokemon. Love the on-demand AV with Water Pond for sure. Yeah, one of my favorites. It's good. I needed it. I think so that's what I was looking at. If you would have like doubled into the Landorus slot, I think I could have still lived the Facade. And it's Fire Pond. Of course it is, right? The Heatran commands that board presence. It had to be Fire Pond. And he has Terra now, if he wants to, with his last turn Trick Room. So all we got to do is just chill. I think we just let, like, I'm trying to think, yeah, you just put him in the Heatran because, like, we don't care what you want to do. And if they were to go for, like, a Swords Dance, they can have it, honestly. I think I outspeed a lot of these guys. So we just want to reapply Intimidate. Heatran wins the game. Heatran's the ultimate skill check. Spiky Shield Gaming. And there it is. And he goes for his Spiky Shield in the last turn because he thought we were going to double him. And there's not much else you can do. Hyper Voice is fine, but like Heatran says, you gotta be this tall to ride, man. Heatran forever. Look at that. Oh, dude, it feels good. We got triple crit in one turn on the second turn of the game. And we came back, right? We came back. We did not let them in. Like, I feel like that's the only, like, that's why this team, that's why I like it so much. For me personally, I don't play like a lot of balance, but like teams like this, it really resonates with me. Like, I'm able to really understand what their last Pokemon are. And like, I understand why they tunnel like into certain Pokemon, if that makes any sense, right? I knew having Heatran there would force the incorrect trauma response. Did I forget to register? You did, yeah. I knew that Heatran would force them to tunnel incorrectly. I knew it. I felt it in my bones. Goes for the Woodhammer. He does outspeed me, which is surprising. Which means now, even if you TR, Heatran just wins the game. I was surprised that Ogerpon was still full speed on a team like this, but that's fine with me. Works for me, baby. Heatran is forever. So Heat Wave hits. Look at that damage. Oh! Love to see it. And a burn on Friggraff. That's all we need. Remember, we still have Landorus. Landorus is just chilling back there. Goes for the Trick Room. Don't care. That Friggraff ain't doing nothing against Heatran. Heatran's the inevitable. Now, remember, he hasn't Terra'd yet. But if he did have, like, a Terra Blast ground, that would have worked. Can't they Ivy Cut you, though, because you're Mold Breaker? They can, but our Heatran's, like, really, really thick. It's not like a lot of special attack. They definitely can. Like, this is, like, the third game in the tournament where, like, basically what my team does is it gives you the Heatran and says, use your Ogerpon. And after, like, you know, a crit isn't even, it's probably about like 60%, and we can protect, and we have lefties and stuff like that. But like, it doesn't do any damage, the Ivy Cudgel. Especially if you stick an Intimidate, is what I mean. And the crit just doesn't do as much. But yeah, we fought two people earlier that just tried to shove our Heatran down, and it just doesn't do anything. Because it's just neutral. But yeah, at that point, like, you can go for Ivy Cudgel, it just doesn't do as much. And I think at this situation, there's just not need does to get out of this one. He throws it, he's tilted. He's gonna lose his Mold Breaker. But yeah, one guy we played earlier, we like triple intimidated his Ogerpon, and he just kept trying to steal it with Ivy Cudgel. And when you have Cress and the lefties, just like healing the Heatran through all of that, there's like nothing you can do to get out of it. So Lando goes down, obviously, but we don't really care. Because now, especially because you Terastallized there, it doesn't matter anymore. He just doesn't do any damage. Of course, we missed this turn because we're gamers, but like, it's fine. And I think in this situation here, I could have went for like a different attack next turn, but I didn't want to like get Spiky Shield or waited. Like I think like I could have just ignored the Ogre Pawn because you can't hit me with any of your other moves, right? I think I could have just ignored it and like flashed in the Furgraph to win the game, but like it's also fine to just click Heat Wave, honestly. Heat Wave's still a good move, so we're able to win this one. Not that much to do about it. We have to just weave in a Protect, easy peasy. Actually, I don't know if I even weave in the Protect here. Yeah, do I weave in the Protect? No. Yeah, I weave in the Protect this turn, and then next turn I attack. Just because, like, even if they wanted to Spiky Shield me, this next turn, I would still get the last turn of TR to be able to pin them, and, like, Ogre Pawn doesn't have anything that checks it, you know? Goes for Psychic. Psychic does good damage against Heatran, just like Hyper Voice, but, like, at the same time, like, Heatran is just really thick, and they're taking damage on the Furgraph. I'm restoring health with my leftovers, like, this is prime Heatran gaming. Like, we're rocking a full health, like, heavy bulk Heatran. It's my favorite, dude. I love it. Heatran's that boy. So we get the Furgraph. Remember, he doesn't have like a citrus. He already used the throat spray. So again, there's not really that much they can do. We just go for the Heat Wave. It's fine. And there's the Psychic. So we go Heat Wave, hit both, wait at the last turn TR. We repin the Furgraph and just finish off with the Flash Cannon. Easy. Actually, he's going to take off from Burn. We take those ones all the way to the bank. So we are able to go to 4-2. And, you know, I think the team did fine. You know, I think the first loss that we had was we taunted into a mental Rumungus, and then we almost came back. And then the second loss that we had was, it was our worst matchup, which is like Dozo Blender, and we had 2 chances to win, and we didn't. So it's like, I feel like we won 4 very comfortably, and then the 2 that we lost, we reviewed these replays, and we know where we need to like lock in just a little bit more. And it's hard to like dictate play with a team that's this reactive. Like Heatran Cress Water Pawn, it's hard to dictate play in a match with that. So being able to like go into all 6 of those matches and still feel comfortable enough to like take all of the games to like a late game situation feels really good. I really like this team, and I'll probably be playing a little bit more GC a little bit later on. But like, this was fun to do so far. And if you guys like watching these ones where we review all these replays and analyze them, let me know. And yeah, that's pretty much it.